Good morning, all you folks out there in YouTube land. Thrash Pondo here, and today I'm going to be reviewing a long-lost science fiction classic, the made-for-TV movie LA 2017. But before I do that, I must ask you all like, subscribe, forward, and all the other wonderful things that I'm always begging you people to do. Come on, people, it's my third anniversary. Throw me a bone. And now, with that shameless groveling out of the way, let me begin. I was recently watching our friend Mr. Mark Zickery's channel, Mr. Sci-Fi. Yes, that Mr. Sci-Fi of Space Command. And he presented a made-for-TV movie directed by, are you sitting down, Steven Spielberg, written by Philip Wiley, the made-for-TV post-apocalyptic science fiction film LA 2017. Now, long story short, the main character, a Mr. Glenn Howard, a magazine mogul, for reasons never made clear, passes out while driving his car and wakes up 47 years later into a world which has been destroyed by an eco-collapse, causing what few survivors there are left in the world to live in these dystopian underground cities. Now, half the fun of this work isn't even so much the production as the fact that as you watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is such a 1970s production. The extensive discussion of various eco issues. In fact, it's so funny. At one point, the character Howard asked the vice president, what caused the collapse of the world? Was it nuclear war? And the vice president goes, no, 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 nothing so simple. I'm going to use that. Simple as nuclear war. No, no, no. It was a gradual eco collapse. In fact, one of the great things they do, and it's something you see in all movies being made at this time, they rely incredibly heavily on expositional dialogue to advance the plot. Now, sometimes gotta tell you, sometimes I feel that that's a cop out, but it does two invaluable things. One, it advances the plot very, 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 very quickly. And when you're doing a made-for-TV movie and time is at issue, you really, really got to find a way to get the ball rolling, as it were. Also, it saves very, very heavily on production costs because you don't have to film these scenes of collapse. You just tell people, and this film has, I think, like 3 or 4 scenes of intense exposition to kind of flesh out this world. And of course, you find out over the course of it that it was the corporations that created these underground cities. So they run this dystopian world as a corporation where the people at the top have all the luxuries and the people in the bottom are basically the proles. How often have we seen that? But the slick thing is, well, first of all, as I'm watching it, all I can think of is when this movie was being conceptualized, was it considered to be a sequel for Doctor Strangelove? Because it's pretty much what Doctor Strangelove had in mind at the end of How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Left the Bomb. In fact, one step further, as I'm watching it, I don't know if this was necessary. Apparently, there was a show at the time called The Name of the Game, and this made-for-TV movie was a part of that ongoing series, but the character is sort of jackhammered in to the plotline. I can't help but think this almost works better as a Dylan Hunt saga. I can't help but think that this was intended as some pilot about a type A from our time, or contemporary times, in this case 1971, going into the future and becoming a savior figure, a hero. And when they couldn't sell the pilot, it was simply picked up by the people at Name of the Game. I've seen crazier things. That's how The Fugitive worked. But in any event, the great thing about it was the little details that they actually put into it. For example, it takes place 30 years after the people have all moved underground. The young people don't seem to care because they haven't known anything different, but the dissident group is actually the middle-aged and older types. Therefore, you see things that they go to a sort of uh, contemporary go-go club And it's these geriatric musicians playing rock music, and all the people there are these very disgruntled sort of old folks, and even the staff are my age and older. So it just shows they've gone from the young generation being the headache to the older generation being the headache. Nice twist for 1971, I got to admit. Great cast. In fact, as you watch it, you can't help but go, oh my God, they were in the Twilight Zone. And oh my God, they also were in the Twilight Zone. And guess what? They were also in the Twilight Zone. Yes, everyone was in the Twilight Zone at the time. Personal fun fact, the film in smaller parts, but has Jeffrey Lewis and Sharon Farrell as characters in the show, both of whom were in my favorite of all time post apocalyptic sci fi holiday film, Night of the Comet. And yes, it is a Christmas movie. And if you don't believe me, watch the video explaining how Night of the Comet is a Christmas movie. It's right here on my YouTube channel. But moving forward, only thing I didn't particularly care for it was spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear the ending, you better turn off now. Spoiler alert: the ending. It ends with Mr. Barry, Glenn Howard, waking up, going, "Oh, it was all a dream." Gott und Himmel. And that was all a dream story? You've got to be kidding me. Uh, Now, I understand 50 years ago that trope wasn't quite beaten into the ground. But still, ring ring, Charles Dickens is on the phone. He says, stop beating his trope to death. Now, I understand, again, they had no way, in fact, the way they explain his time travel, I thought was very slick. When he asked the people in the future what happened, they go, we don't know. We're having our scientists work on it. We'll get back to you. And then when they can postulate a theory, Mr. Howard has stopped speaking to them and says, hey, guess what? We think we know how you got here. Well, I'm out of here. And he leaves. And they go, well, if you're not talking to us anymore, we're not going to bother to tell you. So they completely managed to sidestep it. I just found the ending to be not only cliche, but it actually kind of detracted from the message a bit. Because someone had to explain this to me. Once he is revived by an LA police officer who, for some reason, we find out that there's an exhaust problem in his car. And he's awakened by an LA officer who just happens to have an oxygen tank in his vehicle. And rather than take him to the emergency room, he says, are you okay to drive again? You are? Great. So get back into your car with the exhaust problem and drive off. And you know what he does? He gets back into his gas-guzzling 6 miles to a gallon vehicle and takes off, burning more emissions, and it film ends with a close-up on a dead bird in a tree. But I'm still going, it was a dream? You ended with that? It was all a dream? But I gotta tell you, apart from the ending, it's a very, very fun film. It's very imaginative. The acting is pretty solid for a made-for-TV movie at that time. They were known for being a bit melodramatic and hokey. And again, their depiction of what happened off camera between Mr. Howard's disappearance and the world they live in then is actually great. Edward O'Brien plays a mad scientist, and I mean that literally. He is a scientist in the future who has gone insane because of the trauma he has suffered, and they keep him locked up in a psych ward. There's a lot of psych wards in the future for reasons that are all too obvious. In a psych ward, and he gives this chilling depiction of what happens to him, both in a global sense and a personal sense, which I found absolutely riveting. So I gotta tell you, check this movie out while you can. Mr. Sci-Fi said, well, he's posted on his channel. You can still find it there. It may get taken down for various reasons, but enjoy it while you can. Anyway, go check it out, and then please get back to me. What did you get out of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you pick up the fact that the President of the United States, his name is Walt, as an autocrat Walt Disney? Or better yet, that the new capital of America is in Detroit, the quote-unquote Motor City? Anyway, pick up as much as you want, ignore as much as you want. That's the age we live in. Everybody can ignore their problems. But that's all I've got for you today. So be good, be safe, be careful. Please enjoy. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.